Yeah, welcome into the Friday edition. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063 the game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning. Hope everybody's off to a fabulous start of their day today. Joe Rexrode, I'm losing my voice heading into the weekend, so this will be fun. How we doing? What's going on?
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. Sorry to hear that. You see if we can get you through 3 hours here. Yeah, I'm doing all right. If anybody's watching, I'm in my brother-in-law's shrine to the Cowboys. So I got Deion Sanders signed jersey. Jason,
Yeah,
I think they're signed jersey right back here. Got a nice little Cowboys blankie here. So rough go this fall for the Cowboys, but still very nice jerseys.
I was wondering if there was some sort of allegiance shift that you were going through here.
From what?
I
From
don't
hating the
know.
Bears?
From
My
hating the
my
Bears to
my
loving the
allegiance is
Cowboys.
yeah, no. They're not too far down the hate list, although they're definitely way behind the Bears still.
Keyser, what's going on? How we doing?
Morning, fellas. Yeah, doing well. Had a little bit of trouble trying to get y'all on Zoom for half a second. I was a little worried.
I was too. What do you
Good.
think happened?
Yeah, how'd you fix it?
Well, I think what ended up happening was someone either did not update Zoom or the app was no longer on our browser. So that was a trip for sure.
Wow. How about that? But you know what?
Good save.
That's why you're the best producer in the business, Keyser. You just figured it out. That's what you do.
Absolutely. Got to always get the guys on.
That's right. We got a lot to get to on the program today. The Preds in the losing streak, so they get on the board. We'll get into them a little bit later in the program. Mark Byington, Vanderbilt men's basketball coach, will join us at 7:30. So looking forward to that. Teron Davenport will be with us at 8 o'clock as well. Joe, I do want to start on the Thursday night game last night just real quickly. So the Rams get a 12-6 win against San Francisco last night. So I didn't watch any of it. I was watching the hockey game. I feel bad for those of you who did with the 12-6 final. But Devondre Campbell basically quitting on his team last night for San Francisco. He asked to basically they wanted him to go in the third quarter to go play, and he just refused to do so. Said he was not going to play, didn't feel like playing. Kyle Shanahan after the game was like, "Yep, he just didn't feel like playing." So he left, walked off the field, went in the locker room. George Kittle after the game basically said, "Yeah, I've never seen anybody just like quit on our team, and I hope I'm never around anybody who does it again." So good stuff for Devondre Campbell and the San Francisco 49ers last night.
Yeah, they're hurting. Is there a backstory? I mean, is there anything more to that story?
Well, look, I know Devondre Campbell. He was with the Packers the last few
Right,
years.
right.
He's always been kind of a strange guy, and had some comments at the end of last year about basically just throwing everybody from the Packers under the bus, and then how it was going to be so much better in San Francisco. And now he doesn't want to play football, apparently. So I don't really know what's going on with him, but just I don't know that I've ever seen anybody do that in an NFL game.
Well, Antonio Brown, right? I mean,
Well, yeah, well,
yeah. So this is
at least
two that I've
at least
seen.
Devondre Campbell kept his shirt on, so there's that.
Yeah, I mean Antonio Brown got the most out of his. Like he 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 went down with a fight with a show, but yeah, you definitely don't see it often. That's for sure. That's
No,
wild.
and San Francisco loses, so that's going to put them, Joe, in a pretty rough spot in the NFC picture moving forward here.
Well, especially now they've been swept by the Rams.
Yeah.
So I mean it's pretty amazing because I still obviously they're beat up, but you get Bosa back last night, and it's like that guy totally still changes your team. I think McCaffrey's still supposed to be back, right? At some point, did we figure this out?
I mean, it's going to be. I think he might be able to come back like the last week, but it's going to be pretty tight.
So I mean, like they're that team not being in the playoffs, even with the injuries and stuff, to me is wild. And I still think that if they were to get McCaffrey back, and now they have Bosa back, that they could be a problem. They could be dangerous. I mean, you're not getting Ayuk back.
No.
So that's a loss, but they still have enough to me to be a dangerous team in the postseason. I don't think they're gonna be in it.
No, I don't think they're going to be in it either. So we'll see if that means that the Rams are. I mean, the playoff picture right now in the NFC. pretty interesting when you look at it. Washington still holding on to that last spot, but the Rams are now 8-6, kind of knocking on the door right behind them. So we'll see what that means for the playoff picture moving forward here. We had Charles Robinson on the show yesterday, and we talked about a lot of things with him, including the Bill Belichick hiring, which his press conference was entertaining to watch yesterday at North Carolina. But Charles also got into the Amy Adams Strunk part of this and kind of talked about the new stadium coming in, the PSL spending that's going on, and that the money that's going to be required to do that, and the fact that Amy Adams Strunk does not really speak to fans through the media, and had some pretty strong words for Amy Adams Strunk. Here's what Charles Robinson had to say yesterday on the program.
They're going to get hiked. You're going to pay $30,000, $25,000 for these season tickets, but we'll give you an opportunity to purchase Super Bowl tickets at X amount down the line, and we'll put you on a payment plan. It becomes it's crazy. It's completely wild. And I think that's what fans are going to experience. If an owner puts a fan base through that, you better be accessible. You better be accessible, and you're going to be hated. If you roll out a new stadium and fans are eyeballs deep in debt to watch a 3-10 team, you're going to be hated. That's the bottom line. So I think Amy Adams Strunk has to decide, do I want to be hated by my fan base? Because it'll get there fast. If it's not already there now, the combination of bad football and a lot of money to see the bad football and having no confidence that the bad football is going to be changed, that will lead to a pure hatred of an owner. That'll transform really, really quickly. You might think it's bad now. Just wait until you have Titans fans going, I can't buy season tickets, nor do I want to anymore. And this owner I don't want to be involved with the team until this owner's gone, because she doesn't know what she's doing and she's not held accountable in any way. She doesn't make herself available to be asked hard questions. That it'll turn to hatred. And I hope that, she understands that. I've seen that happen with, Mark Davis makes himself available, and Raiders fans, it's turned into a hatred because he doesn't seem to know what he's doing.
Well, pretty strong stuff from Charles Robinson yesterday on the show, Joe. That generated some reaction throughout the day yesterday. What did you make of those comments from Charles? And what do you make of kind of that dynamic right now between AB Adams Strunk and Titans fans, and how the PSLs and the new stadium factors into it?
Yeah, those are strong words. One thing I took from it is, if anybody didn't see it, DJ Burnside did do an illustration of Mark Davis with regular hair. Yes. And he actually looks like a super smart and trustable dude. If he had that hair, I'd be like, I bet you that guy's one of the best owners in the NFL. Look at that dude. Huh? What do you think, guys? There's no way that guy's probably has one of the best teams in the NFL. So anyway, it is amazing how much difference that can make. But yeah, those are strong.
Keep the bowl cut, Mark. Keep it going.
I mean, I'm rooting for him to keep it going too. But I'm just saying, I don't know, Raiders fans may differ, or maybe again, if they ever win, they'll all have little hats with it. But yeah, the Amy Adams Strunk thing, look, the reality is also, I mean, I hear everything Charles is saying. Those are strong comments, and it's amazing to think about, along with the football and all the things that have, you've pointed out this week, and sometimes it's so funny to remind yourself. 3 years ago, #1 seed. Along with all those things that have eroded, think about the public perception of Amy Adams Strunk.
Yeah.
I mean, she was, it wasn't just yes, go J-Rob and go Vrabel and go Vray-Rob, also here's an owner who gets it, and it's stability. And this is going to be, this franchise could be, I heard this the time they beat the Ravens. It's see, that's the franchise you want to be. You want to have that kind of a sort of identity, and a real long-term, longevity with your people and things like that. Those are the very few franchises in the NFL. There's talk of that. And now, of course, there's not. And now Charles is sitting here talking about hatred. I mean, it's something else. But again, also in the NFL, I mean, these owners, I mean, essentially they do just hold cities hostage,
Right.
I mean, that's what they do. And they win usually, and they get their way. And if they don't, then Stan Kroenke goes to, bounces around the country and back. And, who's the other team that just moved? Another
the
team
Raiders.
just moved. Well, yeah, the Raiders or somebody else, but regardless, they they'll go. They'll just well, I was thinking, of course, of the Chargers before that. Chargers,
Right.
So I mean, that's what they do. So like you already, I mean, really, like that's already happened here. It's just that like people agreed to, obviously to keep it here, which is, I mean, I think was the right decision. But bottom line is, like, if you really look into this stuff as a fan, I mean, the only way to really be happy with your owner is, of course, you're never going to be happy with like prices or the fact that like they are, like they do what they do, but then you have bad football and then you have no accountability, no public accountability, and that combination is toxic.
No doubt. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our text line is down, so hit us up on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Take your thoughts in the YouTube chat as well. We'll have more coming up on the Titans and Amy Adams Strunk. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Taking your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025, our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Taking your thoughts in the YouTube chat as well. Big Ed in the YouTube chat, Joe, says, we've been season ticket holders for 13 years, will not be moving to the new stadium. There's no emotional return on investment for me anymore. It's interesting, Joe. We've heard from several people the last few days who said they are going to the new stadium. Several people who said they aren't. You know, PK came on a couple of days ago and talked about how he feels like the stadium's doing well because it's new. People are interested to go see it. There's more than just the Titans that are coming in there, so people want to take it, advantage of all those things that will eventually be coming down the pipe. And I think all those things are good points. But I do wonder, like right now, with the combination of the most important thing, which is the football team and the record and how miserable they've been to watch this year and really for the last couple of years. And then, the way the organization has been run on top of that, how much is that? How much do we think that's actively affecting the Titans right now when it comes to season ticket holders, the new stadium, interest level in general, apathy, like the state of this fan base right now? How much of this run that they're on is really having a negative impact? That's something I would love to know. If you're a Titans fan, if you're the Titans themselves kind of looking at things right now and taking inventory of where you're at.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely heard from people who have expressed similar things. See, so what's interesting about that to me is like, as a fan, and again, I'm not telling anybody you do whatever you want with your money, go or don't. But like you do, I mean, in this league, I mean, it is cyclical. Very few organizations continue to win. I mean, even the Steelers are back this year, it appears, as a pretty good team. But they've had a little run of, for them, bad is like 500 basically, right? But I mean, like, like a few years again, I know it's a lot of bad football now, 9-28, but still, like, you'll cycle back, right? I mean, 13 years you've seen the depths, and you've seen pretty freaking good teams in that time. You've seen basically most of the spectrum, not all the way to the champion, obviously, but a pretty big range. So that. So then I wonder, Robby, how much of it is the circumstances that go with the football, which is all the stuff we talk about, which is the rash firings and the non-accountability, the non-public state, all that stuff, just the ownership aspect of it. How much of it is that's turning people off well beyond just a bad football product?
Yeah, it's a great question. And look, I think we all know this. At the end of the day, if they're a winning football team, then the ownership and all that other stuff becomes secondary. Like, that's what it's about, right?
Sure.
Like, if they're winning games, that's what people care about. But I do wonder, like, if you're a fan looking at it over the last couple of years, it's like, okay, so not only are we bad, we're 9-28 over this stretch here, but you also fired a general manager in the middle of the season. You ran off Mike Vrabel last year about a month after saying and like doubling down that he was going to be your coach. And now you've got a front office that spent all offseason long talking about how they checked every box and that they got every first hit coach on their list and their first choice, and the product's 3-10. They just feel like a dysfunctional organization. Like they feel like they don't really know what they're doing. And that may be unfair. That may be fair. I don't know. But the results are what they are. And then you factor in everything that's gone down in addition to just bad football that you've had to watch on a week in, week out basis for the most part over the last 3 years. I have to think that that's at least some of this, Joe. I have to.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely could be. I mean, obviously the product is what it is, and that speaks more than anything. And when it comes down to it, at some point, that's what you're judged on. I mean, I guess right now the question is just like, is it enough, to judge it on? But the public messaging and the football combined, either the messaging itself or the lack of messaging with her, it's a toxic combination. Now, are they dysfunctional in the building? They may they may have a great thing going. And I know at some point it's like, oh, good, they get along. Who cares? But like, dysfunctional to me speaks to like people not doing their job, not communicating with each other, not being able to do their jobs. Does this product and the bad messaging just tell us that for sure? I wouldn't say so. But again, it's a fair question at some point, I mean, this is why at some point, if everybody's working together well and all that stuff, and by the way, there's still a lot of people in this organization who were there with John Robinson and some before him who were still there in the scouting realm. But I mean, that's where like at some point the product demonstrates that you're functional, right? So
Yeah.
it's got to happen soon.
Well, we talk about it being a results-based business. That really goes for everything, right? Like, you can be technically, I guess, doing the right things and be quote unquote functional behind the scenes. But if you're functional and it never really pays off in terms of the win-loss record, like what does that mean? Like how does that help you in professional sports, right? Like, and again, maybe it's too early to come to that determination with this current setup. That's what Amy Adams Strunk is going to be tasked with here. But it's one of those things that, you know, at some point you're all judged in the organization by, are you winning or are you losing? Ed on the YouTube chat says, you'd think that an owner that hides from the media would be patient because she doesn't have to face the slings and arrows, which is an interesting point. You're not up there facing the music all the time, but she's not necessarily been patient. And maybe that approach changes this offseason, but she certainly, giving out contract extensions to John Robinson and Mike Vrabel, and then both of them being gone 2 years later, would not necessarily be the most patient thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think if you're going to keep hiding from the media, then you can either continue to do what she's been doing, which is just quickly making decisions on people, or you can let it ride. People are going to be mad either way. I mean, people are going to be mad at whatever she does. She does nothing. She does everything. She does something in between. People are going to be mad, right?
Yeah.
And then at this point, I would guess you won't talk about it. So, I mean, it's when you have this season, some people will be yay if she fires everybody, but then immediately it's like, okay, so you think that this is going to get better now? You think there's going to be a good hire now? Okay,
right.
Well, great. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be confident in that. To your point on, the internal versus external product. I mean, it's like our pre-show meetings. Like I come up with all these awesome jokes and like brilliant segments, and then the show starts, and I just kind of puke words in the microphone. I mean, you just can't.
Every day.
Like I say, it does not always translate when you have great plans and great stuff behind the scenes, and Izzo's got us running sprints and everything, and then it doesn't really pay off.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Tony on the YouTube chat, if we had a good line and a good quarterback play, none of this would be talked about right now. It's like, well, yeah,
Oh, that's true. If you had a good football team, it would
that's
be
kind
different.
of the point, though, right? Like, she's in charge of putting the people in charge to go get those things, the good line and the good quarterback. And right now, I mean, how far away do they feel from that? They're 3-10, right? Like, I agree, Tony. If they had those things, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. But those are pretty difficult things to find in the National Football League when you don't have them.
Yeah, and again, so and the line is a long-term thing, going back to people who have already been fired. Quarterback is these guys. I mean, that's Rand's second round pick, and whatever the discussions came about, that's what it is. It's the front office's pick. So, sometimes some people think a GM should only get one big QB. The funny thing is Robinson actually never got one, but he made the great move to get Tannehill. But some get more than that, and I guess not being a first round quarterback makes it a little different.
Yep. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. So as we sit here today, less than a month remaining in the Titans season here, what are the chances that they end up with the number one pick? Is that going to be a realistic possibility for the Titans over this next stretch here? We'll get into that. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning. I believe we are now halfway functional on the text line, Joe Rexrode. So if you want to send in your text, Rexrode's got them for you. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We got anything good on there so far?
I'm the gatekeeper, so I mean, actually, since Robby doesn't have access right now, I could probably just make some stuff up. I think Rexrode's the way better part of Robby and Rexrode. Here's a text right here from a bud in Nashville. I'm going to give Rexrode a huge race. No, okay. What do we
Very
have
nice.
here? Yes, thank you. So
Rexrode has the best hair on the entire program.
Actually, Keecher's got pretty good hair, but the people don't know that. He's not on camera. We got to do the producer on camera thing, man. So here's we addressed this yesterday, but again, this always comes up. So unnamed texter, I have a question just because I don't know. Do other owners in the NFL have press conferences all the time or even after they fire someone? I've said this before. I am seriously going to crowdsource this and try to come up with because I think, first of all, we should be fair. One fair thing to say is some of them don't talk, but we did ask this of Charles yesterday, and like he said, like for the most part, I mean, look, I'll tell you, like with the Lions, like I know that Sheila Hampford is available at times, but like even William Clay Ford in the bad years, he would be available, not a ton. He'd sometimes be available after games in the locker room, and he definitely would have press conferences. I think at least once a year. I think once a year is fair, And again, we're talking 6. If I'm not mistaken. Now let me raise my hand, Robby, to be to be fair and transparent. I did a story on the like the old Oilers team, like Billy White Shoes Johnson and stuff like that, a few years ago. And I got her one-on-one for that. So so she helped me with that. But again, that's a story she wants to talk for. We talked about her dad and those guys. She was great. So when it's something like that, she has been accessible in the past. Individually, I mean, she's talked to Kaharski before. Again, she gave the interview to Teresa after firing John Robinson. But yeah, I just some of them are somewhat regularly, some of them aren't. I do want to get that answer to be fair, right? And to put it into context. But like, I would be willing to wager that you're not gonna find many who are 6 years since the last presser actually taking questions from reporters and that, by the way, that was after a controversial, a lot of people, the pick of Jeffrey Simmons and what had happened with him in high school. So it's way too long. And I always believe, Robby, like this franchise, and let alone now when you're trying to sell something, but this franchise to me should always be one of the more accessible ones in the NFL. The reality of this franchise and the youngness of this fan base is what it is.
So there's been a lot of complaining, obviously, I would say over the last few days, but really for the last few months here about the Titans. The distinguished gentleman on YouTube says this fan base is so impatient with one of those cover your face emojis. To which my response is they've been a bad football team for 2.5 years. Like, how long is the fan base supposed to be patient for? You're right. The league cycles, right? So the Titans went through an uptick from 2016 to 2022 where they were a consistently good team. They were making the playoffs. They were winning divisions. And is that going to last forever? No. Is being at the bottom of the barrel, which is where they're at right now, is this going to last forever? No. But I'm not going to get on the fans for being impatient. Like, it's been 2.5 years of not only losing, but bad optics, bad football, everything you want to say that goes along with it. It's been a pretty significant run here of bad. So I'm not getting on the fans are too impatient train here with the Titans.
No, if you are patient, and that's great, good for you. I mean, if you can be that as a fan, that's a good thing to be, because this league does, even in this league, with ownership that demonstrates incompetence, you can find competent people and have good football teams and good football. So good for you. But you 9-28, man. 9-28, and all the things that have gone with it that we've talked about, you can't get on people for being upset. I mean, come on. Philip here says, can you talk about the Gentry Estes op-ed in the Tennessean? Well, we started the trend, Philip, okay? Like, we were on that before everybody else. But yeah, that was actually the rant yesterday reading some of that, talking about it. Great job by him. He's gotten a lot of attention for it, and he should have, because it was very well done. And for those who aren't familiar, I mean, he basically tore up the Titans for their lack of accountability and visibility and transparency and competence. Pretty much carved them up.
It was well done by Gentry Estes from the Tennesseans. So, Joe, they sit here today at 3-10. According to tankathon.com, they've got the number 6 overall pick if the season were to end today in the NFL draft. You have the Raiders and the Giants, who are both still stuck on that 2-win mark at 2-11. By the way, the Raiders have lost 9 in a row. The Giants have lost 8 in a row. So a lot of losing going on with those two teams. You know, the Patriots, the Panthers, now Jacksonville with their big win against you last week, the Titans, the Jets, and the Browns all at 3-10. So the Titans are kind of right there in that kind of mix at the bottom there in terms of what exactly is the draft order going to look like. How high up are they going to go? Could they be in the top 3? Could they be in the top 7? Do they have a legitimate chance to get in the running for number 1 overall pick? Now, Joe, in order for them to get in the running at number 1 overall pick, the Raiders and the Giants are both going to have to win another game. And based on the way that those two teams have played, I'm not sure that that's going to happen at some point. So it may just be as simple as it's going to be either the Raiders or the Giants that end up getting to this thing. But right now you're in that 6 hole in the draft order. And obviously the more the draft comes around and gets closer, the more we're going to talk about quarterback and the potential options that the Titans could have there. How do you view where things currently stand with the Titans in terms of where they're at in the draft order and the likelihood of them to move up if they do the combination of more losing, which very well could be coming, and other teams around them start to win?
Yeah, well, if you're a Titans fan who wants a regime change, then you got a win-win coming if you can just lose. You know, I mean, not necessarily, but if the Titans are going to actually contend in a schedule where I think they could have a couple more wins here for the top pick and really bottom out here. You know, the higher the pick, the better, obviously. You know, even if they're not going to take a quarterback, someone may want to and get into your spot, then you can get a haul. You know, you can do like John Robinson did in 2016. But obviously, if that's the case, to me, that would potentially be bad news for all the folks doing the job here, right?
Yeah.
So if that's what you want, then there you go. I guess you can root hard for the Titans to lose. But I'm with you. I think the Raiders and Giants especially. The Giants going to win another game? They just seem like a dead fish flopping around right now.
Well, on the Raiders front, I'll say this. Raiders' schedule coming down the stretch here is pretty soft. Like they've got, now granted, they're the softest part of everybody's schedule too, so I understand that.
Right.
They have the Falcons coming up on Monday Night Football, apparently, which thank God for that. Looking forward to that. Little Falcons Raiders. They have the Jags. They have the Saints, and then the Chargers to close out the season. So, I mean, look, the Falcons aren't playing very well. We know what Jacksonville is. The Saints, look, somebody's, I think, going to win the Jacksonville Raiders game. So that should help you there if you're the Titans, if you're looking to move up in the draft order.
But also hurt you because one of them has to lose.
One of them has to lose as well. So you've got that. But I'm just saying, like the schedule for the Raiders looking ahead here, there's going to at least be some opportunity for them to win. Like the Giants also have the Falcons coming up and the Colts. They also have the Ravens and the Eagles. And you wouldn't, unless the Eagles game, which is the last game of the year, just means absolutely nothing for Philadelphia, which maybe it does at that point. But the Giants are just absolute cheeks. They're awful.
Yeah, that's and the thing is, with the Falcons, obviously they're nosediving, but they're still like totally in the race to win their division. So I actually think they'll probably get well with those games, but maybe not. I mean, the way they do look vulnerable, the way they've been playing, the way Cousins been playing, their defense, like, hey, Justin Jefferson's all alone downfield. Well, don't know how that happened, but so it's possible, certainly, that the Titans could get a little bit of help there. I just, I guess Of course, I was pretty certain they were going to beat the Jaguars, and I was wrong about that. But I just have a feeling they're going to win a game or two here.
Yeah. It's
Why? I can't tell you.
Well, I mean, look, they do have Jacksonville. Titans have Jacksonville one more time on the schedule. They've got an Indy team that I know that Indy beat them here, and now you have to go on the road to Indianapolis. But like, go watch them play. Depending on the week, they can look as bad as anybody when they're bad. So, like, it's not an unwinnable game for the Titans to beat Indianapolis. So, the likelihood is the Titans are probably going to find at least one or two more wins here, and then we're not having the number one overall pick discussion. But right now, I mean, they are technically still in the running for it at this point, even though I think probably the more likely answer of where they end up is about where they are right now, which is around that 6th or 7th overall mark, which I know some Titans fans listening are screaming, saying, no, get me up higher. I want to be higher in the draft.
Yeah. And this does not, I mean, by all draft analyst accounts, this is not a super deep draft in terms of top end, players. Forget like QB. It's obviously not a great QB. Also, it's not supposed to be a great offensive tackle draft, by the way. So but
so get excited, Titans fans.
You still should be able to get a really good player at 6 or 7. I mean, to me, like, an edge, if that's the way it falls, there should be some good options there. But yeah, I mean, if you can just be, if you could get to 3, I mean, that to me, it's like if you can get to any place where you might be able to move out because someone's quarterback, or again, maybe they are taking a quarterback, then that's where it could really benefit you.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. The streak is over, baby. Preds get a win last night. We'll get into that coming up next. Take your thoughts as well on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHunting.com. Nashville's best deal this week, 312 Pizza Company in Germantown. 312 Pizza Company serves the best pizza in town, as well as Chicago-style eats like Chicago dogs, Italian beef sandwiches, and more. Check them out at 371 Monroe Street in Germantown, or order takeout online at 312pizzacode.com. Head to theGameNashville.com/deals to get half off a $30 gift card to 312 Pizza Company while supplies last. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
and it goes up in the air and lands behind the goal. O'Reilly in front. Hayes scores. Ryan O'Reilly breaks the ice. The Predators take a 1-0 lead with 8:20 left in the second. 4-on-4 goal. His first NHL game since April 2023 for the Preds. Down low, Novak! Hayes scores! Marchessault to Novak! And the Predators take a 2-0 lead with 6:27 left in the second. Another tip on and another goal for the Preds! Ryan O'Reilly tips it in the slot. And it's 3-0 Nashville.
Preds win, baby. The streak is over. They get it done last night in Dallas. 4-1, the final score. Ryan O'Reilly back in the lineup. 2 goals, 1 assist for him. So a big night for him. Joe, the first time, last night was game number 30. The first time all year that they've had a player reach 3 points in a game, which is just unbelievable so far this year. First time all season. O'Reilly gets it with 2 goals and 1 assist last night. So 2 goals for him. Novak scores for the second consecutive game. And Jonathan Marchessault, after scoring twice on Tuesday with 2 assists last night. Preds, hey, they look like a good hockey team last night in Dallas. And looked that way very often so far this year. The streak is over, Joe Rexrode. Hallelujah. Rejoice if you're a Predators fan.
What does it all mean? Is this was the turnaround against the Stars last year? Is that right?
I don't know
if the big run was it the first game against the Stars, or am I wrong about that?
Well, it was right before that. They got beat 9-2 by the Stars.
The Stars, yeah. That's right. The Stars spurred it, and the U2, and yes. So maybe beating the Stars, and now Barry Trotz surprises them with a concert they're going to.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And you flip it kind of the other way. See what I'm saying?
I mean, if only like Timberlake was in town last night, I think, right? So maybe they could have like hopped. If it was tonight, they could have hopped from Dallas back to here before going to Colorado and checked out, Justin Timberlake, but just didn't work out that way with the schedule.
Well, there's always some live music here. There's some really good 80s bands they can hit up, and just team bonding and then keep it rolling. But seriously, I mean, hey, it's good to see. I mean, 4 goals beating that team, which has been a terrible matchup for them. Like you said, so you got O'Reilly back in. You still have so now what are they all of a sudden like looking okay at center now?
Look, Stamkos looked good last night, man. Like down the middle of that line, Forsberg, Stamkos, Marchessault, it looked good again. So, I mean, I definitely keep going with it. Is last night some turning point in the season? Hard for me to get there. Like they won a game and they ended the 8-game losing streak, so that's good. Like. The negativity that has been surrounding this team, justifiably so, is like a tidal wave, right? So good for them that they get the win and they get to end some of that, at least temporarily, before they go back to Colorado coming up on Saturday. The most amazing part is, like, I looked at their defense heading into the game, Joe, and Yossi didn't play. Lazan warmed up and did like morning skate yesterday, but he didn't play. Carrier, we know, is not going to play, anytime in the foreseeable future right now. So you're down 3 of your defensemen, and you brought up Kevin Gravel. So you got like Willsby, Kevin Gravel, Nick Blankenberg all playing, and Mark Del Gaizo, like all playing big minutes on defense for you. And you're going up against a Dallas forward group that's like as loaded as anybody, 1 through 12 with their forward group, and you hold them to 1 goal. Like that's the most amazing thing. And by the way, you started your backup goalie. Ananen has looked awesome his first 2 games. Like he was great last week against Montreal, and the Predators didn't help him out at all. They got shut out. And then last night he made 37 saves. Like Ananen looks unbelievable in his first 2 games.
It is amazing with the injuries in the decor, but it's also like, how often does that happen too? You know what I mean? Like it's just like sometimes, and again, don't want to overstep in this, but sometimes that can be a little bit galvanizing too, when you've got injuries and stuff like that. You got young guys and it looks like a terrible matchup, and you come through with a performance like that. We have seen past Preds teams be sparked by young guys who had to be called up or just were called up because whatever, they're changing things a little bit, and the young guys have kind of helped drag some of the veterans along at times. So maybe there's a little bit of that going on. And yeah, it's good to have, if you're going to get that kind of, backup goaltending. Goaltending's pretty good shape for this team right now. We can say that.
Yeah, for sure. Like Onanen, his numbers on the season are bad. At least they were heading into last night. I think he was like at a 311 goals against average and an 879 save percentage. But most of that's obviously been with Colorado. And they hadn't had anybody stop the puck all year long until, Scott Wedgwood got a shutout the other night. So there was that. And so they've kind of revamped their entire goaltending department. But like Onanen, like he's 6'4", 210 pounds. Like he's got the prototypical goalie size that you're looking for. First two games, he's looked awesome. So I don't know what that means for him moving forward here. But the first two games, he's played great as a member of the Predators. So good to see that last night. But I mean, Joe, I think the big takeaway that I've got that I'm interested to see what happens. That's two games in a row where I think Marchessault's been pretty good. Is this like the start of him turning his individual season around, right? The team is in a tough spot. I've talked about this week. Just from a math perspective, it's going to be really hard for them to get themselves back into this where they're playing meaningful hockey down the stretch in terms of the record. But like Marchessault scored twice Tuesday, 2 primary assists last night, and I thought he was pretty involved in the play, like probably could have had a couple more assists. So what does that mean? Like if they get him going, I thought Stamkos looked good last night because I've said that this is not just a this year problem right now. This is
Right.
the bones of the whole thing. What's it going to look like moving forward here? So encouraging from Marchessault the last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the only way out of this. If there is any way out of this, is just like hoping some of these guys start to play up to their career level, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, it is more than this year. The Marchessault thing, it's like when these comments, not that they were hugely controversial, but still, when these en français comments were made, it's like sometimes with that, it's like, well, it's about to get real bad. Or maybe you're going to see a turnaround, I mean, even there were times, of course, here you think about like Matt Duchene and all the disappointment, and then all of a sudden he went on a heater. I'm not comparing to Matt Duchene, but I'm just saying, like, sometimes you just see that a player go through a streak that makes no sense, and it's like, well, that's what that player is, I guess.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, actually there is more there to it, and that's what the Preds have got to find that. But now, so Stamkos maybe in a spot that's working, it's working better for everybody. So obviously, both of those guys have to be a huge part of the solution, as does Forsberg.
Yep, no doubt about that. And look, I'll give Ryan O'Reilly credit. He goes down last week. The injury was a week-to-week injury, and he was out basically a week. Like he was trying all he could to get out there on Tuesday for the game against Calgary. He was out there for like 45 minutes before the morning skate, just testing it all he could. Like the Zambonis were going on around him, and he was like weaving in and out of the Zambonis on the ice. I mean, that guy, you can't say that guy doesn't care. Like, we've talked about this. It's kind of funny with O'Reilly after they lose games. He like takes every possible thing that went wrong in the game and puts him on himself. But
sure,
like he gutted it out last night. There's no doubt about it. Like he's still going through some stuff with his lower body injury, and he guts it out last night and ends up with 3 points. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's a winner. He always has been, and also, yes, calls himself a loser. So it's quite a contrast. The text line driven by WilsonCountyHoney.com. Chip from Mount Juliet says, last night the Preds had true hungry defenseman. Yossi is a defenseman trying to be a forward.
Here we go.
Well, Yossi he's pretty good offensive defenseman. I'd say those are kind of valuable in pro hockey.
Well, by the way, did you see the
worked
game
out pretty
Tuesday
well for him and them?
Like, did you watch Tuesday when they lost him and couldn't defend anyone? I mean, there is that too. Like, he's not a bad defender either.
No, he's pretty good. That's how you win Norris trophies. Matt says the speed of the Rooks and the Preds brought in last night. Wow. And Keith says Preds are back, baby. We're winning the cup. There you go, Keith.
Yeah, baby. I like it.
Turn it around. Turn it around.
I like it. 615.
It's talking about something different. We'll take it.
Amen. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll get back into the Titans coming up next. Titans fans, I'm speaking to you. Do you want Will Levis as the quarterback next year, or do you want somebody else? And your somebody else better be a realistic option if that's what it is. We'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063. The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning. We'll be joined by Vanderbilt men's basketball coach Mark Byington a little bit later this hour at 7:30. Get into Vanderbilt's great start to the season with him. Teron Davenport at 8 o'clock will be with us. We'll get into all things Tennessee Titans with them. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. So, Joe, as we sit here today, December the 13th, this is the part of the season we've now reached. Titans are eliminated from playoff contention officially, as if that wasn't unofficial about 2 months ago. They still have the string to play out here with 4 more games coming up. And the question remains about the quarterback. Will Levis has come back from the shoulder injury and has played better, albeit a disappointing performance from him and the entire team this last Sunday against Jacksonville. But, Joe, prior to that game, we did hear from a lot of Titans fans that said, you know what? With the way that he's played lately, the other options that are out there at quarterback, both in the draft and in free agency, looking ahead to the offseason, that don't seem overly exciting. Why not bring Will Levis back? Why not make him the quarterback again next year and then evaluate after that? See where you're at with the quarterback position and go from there. Now, others, Joe, have been pretty steadfast over the last few weeks that it's time to move on from Will Levis. It's time to address the next quarterback in the draft, and that's the plan for them as they move forward. I would love to know, if you're a Titans fan sitting here today, what is your current plan at quarterback? Do you want to see Will Levis back for a third season and to have another chance to prove that he's the long-term guy? Do you want to see Will Levis back as the starting quarterback next year because you don't like the other options that are out there? Or are you convinced that it's time to move on and go get another quarterback, whether that's in the draft or via free agency or trade in the offseason? I would love to know where Titans fans sit on this issue as we sit here today on Friday, December the 13th.
I'd like to know specifically how many think that he is going to be what you hoped. Because I think there's a lot of people would say, well, yeah, I mean, another year, it makes sense because right now I don't like the rest of the field. I don't like the reality of I understand people talking about Sam Darnold. You know, who knows what'll happen there. I think it's getting close to me to where the Vikings, I think, would be kind of crazy to not try to keep him. They could, they could tag him. But even if he somehow ends up out there, what's the selling point for him to come to your team?
Right.
You know, I just think that's a pipe dream. But that's what I like to know is how many people still now through everything. And again, it's not been all bad. It's gotten better lately. Believe that he is going to be that guy, that franchise. Even if not, I'm not talking he's going to be one of the greats, but a guy that you're fine at quarterback now. He can be at least around the top half of the league, a good starting quarterback where eventually he does get that second deal and you're building around him. I mean, that to me, I'm not talking about he's going to turn into Joe Burrow or whatever.
Yeah.
How many people believe that still? I think some, but I bet you that's a small number. And then what does that number compare to how many people are convinced he's absolutely not going to be the guy? Get him out of here. I don't want to hear from him anymore.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I would agree with you. I think the number is probably pretty small that believe that he is going to be what you hoped he would be when they drafted him. And again, I'm not talking Mahomes. I'm not talking, one of your top 3 or 4 elite quarterbacks in the league, but a guy that you feel pretty good about being your long-term answer and giving you a chance to win and win at a high level. Like I doubt very seriously there's a ton of Titans fans that still have a lot of confidence in that. I guess the real question is, like, what does this all mean for the Titans in terms of his evaluation? Like, we can get back into the front office and the head coaching staff and what their future looks like here. But let's just assume, for the sake of this discussion, that they're going to be the ones making the decision here. Like, what does it all mean in terms of where he started this season, where he is now, how that lined up with their preseason expectations, and how they view the rest of the picture? Like, I'm with you. Darnold just doesn't really seem like a very realistic option. I mean, I think Minnesota at this point would be nuts to let him go. And I realize that they drafted JJ McCarthy high. So they're going to have to figure that part of it out, that dynamic out. And it's a good problem to have if you're them. But I just don't know that Darnold is going to be like some realistic option here. So if it's not him, like the free agent part of this at quarterback doesn't look great. We've gone through some of the names. None of them are overly exciting. So is there a trade part? Is there a trade out there that you would be able to make for a veteran quarterback? And also, Joe, here's the other thing. Let's say there is a trade out there to make for a veteran quarterback, whether that's I don't know, a Stafford or somebody of that ilk.
Cousins.
Cousins. Does that make any sense if you're the Titans right now? Like you're going to get one of those aging veteran quarterbacks and you're giving up presumably significant draft capital to do it on a team that already needs as much draft capital as they can get. Like, does that really make a lot of sense for the Titans to entertain that this offseason?
It's a hard sell for me because again, then you're not giving that quarterback much of a chance. You take a draft capital away from a roster that has so many needs, which is the case for Hope Levis keeps improving. And as you build the team around him, there's more evaluation of him. Maybe he takes off, but also then at some point you've got it to the point where now whoever comes in next has a better situation. Terrell on the text line says, I'll take Jameis Winston. There's a lot of reaction on the text line, by the way. But yeah, Jameis Winston is, look, beyond the entertainment value. I watch him and I'm intrigued and I'm like, the guy can wing it around the yard, man, and then he'll throw that pick and you're like, oh my gosh.
Which, by the way, at this point is not going away. Like, I think you know what he is. Like he's going to put up a lot of numbers.
It's kind of like he's like Ryan Fitzpatrick, right? Like the new generation's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like he'll come in and like tear it up, but then it's like, oh, that's why, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like,
but you could still make the case for that. It's
my thoughts on him.
Sure. As a placeholder quarterback, that's at least not. Obviously that's a low cost, right?
Yeah,
placeholder quarterback and do the same thing that I just said, which is build up, and try to figure out your next real long-term move at the position.
Well, and then there's the draft part of it. And we have not gone too deep into the weeds of the draft talk at this point because I've done my darndest to avoid that before we're about to get into an off season's worth of draft talk before it comes around finally in April. But we're getting pretty close to that point where you start to look at it if you're the Titans, right? And, there's the Cam Ward part of this, Shedeur Sanders. How do people view Jalen Milroe heading into this? What about Carson Beck? What about Quinn Ewers? Like, how do people view him? Garrett Nussmeier's staying at LSU, so you can take one of those off the board. So I look at my general thoughts on the quarterback class right now, Joe. There's a couple that I like their potential. I also think that there's a lot of warts with these guys. Like Cam Ward, I think is a good example. Cam Ward can make some throws where you're just like, wow, that's a heck of a throw. That's a heck of an arm that Cam Ward has. And then he'll make some decisions that are in some ways kind of similar to Will Levis that leave you just with your mouth hanging wide open and saying, like, what are you doing? Like, why would you even think to do that if you're Cam Ward? Shedeur Sanders really doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, right? Like he doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. He's had another good season with Colorado. He's not necessarily the most athletic guy. He's not got your huge prototypical size at the quarterback position either. And what kind of a pro does he project to be? Like, we'll have TD on later. I know he really likes Shedeur Sanders. And he said yesterday that, if the Titans ended up with the number 1 pick, he'd take Shedeur Sanders. So there are some people that really like it. There are some people that don't think he's going to project to be all that great of an NFL quarterback. And then you get into the rest of the field, Joe, like the Becks and the Ewers and the Milroes of the world. Those guys have a lot of warts, and that would make me a nervous wreck if you're drafting one of those guys, particularly high in the draft with one of your top 5 pick in the draft. I just don't know that I can get there with any of those guys.
I agree. I think Ewers, I think there's a good chance he's at another college team as Arch Manning takes over at Texas.
Yeah.
Text line, by the way, is popping and overwhelmingly for do another year with Levis, but not 100%, but do another year with Levis. But yeah, Sanders is. I will say with Shooter Sanders, there is. I mean, it's just the accuracy, I mean, and when it comes down to it, what is more important? If you see the field and you're accurate with the football, I think some people with him, of course, it'll, his dad will be, by the way, his jersey right there behind me, Cowboys jersey on the wall. But his dad will be something that I think, to me, people make way bigger deal out of it. Yeah, he'll say some stuff in the media. He's coaching a team. I mean, like, I don't think, I think some people think Deion's just going to be like a helicopter parent in that city and just, I mean, he'll probably rip the coach or whatever after if his kid's struggling and stuff like that. But I don't think that's some big deal. I really don't. Now, maybe, in the draft process itself, I mean, Deion has said some things to that effect, but I'm intrigued by him. I'm intrigued by Cam Ward. Cam Ward is super talented.
He's fun, man. Yeah.
I mean, the throws he makes and the plays he makes, with him, it is a little bit of, sometimes it's like, whoa, that one, what are you doing with that? I mean, some of the death picks like Levis, frankly, but there's a lot there, I think. So I think it's, again, if you fall in love with one of these guys and you're able to get there, then you have to do it. But of course, if you do it, if you're this front office, and this is where Amy, it's like, this is such an interesting thing for her. If you're her and they're that high in the draft, they've done that poorly. They're like 4-13, whatever. And they're able to get one of these quarterbacks, again. So now they're going to draft that guy. And then what are you going to be next year? But that's what you have to be signing up for, right? You have to understand, okay, well, I'm letting these guys do it. This is their quarterback. And so that means, to me, they've got to get probably 2 more years, don't they?
That'd be a tough sell for me.
It would, but it's like, if not, then you're the Bears, where then you're like, okay, let's give it a shot. Oh, this year you were bad, should have been. Okay, you're fired now. Let's bring in somebody all new who inherits this quarterback. I mean, that's where the timelines. I really believe in timelines matching up if you can.
Which is why I think if you're going to draft a quarterback, you probably need to go ahead and make a move. That's my guess. 615-737-1025, our phone number. We'll take your thoughts on the quarterback position for the Titans. Will Levis, does it make sense to bring him back? Do you want him as the starter next year, or do you want to go another route? More of your thoughts on that next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, taking your thoughts on the Titans and the quarterback position. Let's head back to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Tim to the program. Tim, good morning. Thanks for calling in. Hello, Tim. Tim, are you there? I don't think we have Tim.
Call us back, Tim.
Call us back, Tim. We'll take more of your thoughts, 615-737-1025. So the general consensus that you come up with, Joe, on the text line is to go back with Levis for another year. I mean, I would assume that the reasoning for that largely is because you don't love the other options. If you're a Titans fan out there, but either in the draft or in free agency.
I say that again. I'm sorry. Tim threw me off.
No, I'm just saying the general consensus seems to be people want to go back with Levis next year.
Yeah, there's a lot more of that. There's some not, but yeah, it's probably like Trevor, ride with Levis another year, trade down, acquire more capital, replenish the roster. There's been a lot of that too, of course. I get it. Someone suggested, okay, let's say you fall just below like the quarterbacks, but you're in position to draft Travis Hunter. Okay, There's another possibility you could trade down, and I agree. Now, look, Travis Hunter, first of all, I could make the case for you to take him, okay, because he's pretty special. But even if that's your plan, I'm sure someone would want to get there to get him. But there's still a big difference to me between the haul you could get to be at the top of the draft with like the quarterback, if there was the quarterback, which really there isn't. But maybe there will be by then. And the difference between that and the best position player is still pretty significant in what you can get back. You can get something back for sure, obviously, if someone really is in love with Travis Hunter. But like the John Robinson Hall of 2016, number 1 overall pick, Jared Goff is that guy. That's where you can really load up, and I don't see that happening.
You ready for what I think could be a realistic scenario that Titans fans are not going to like whatsoever? Like, what happens if you're picking like 6th in the draft and you're not going to land one of those top 2 quarterbacks, and maybe there is an option to move back and pick up some more draft capital, but as you said earlier, the experts, and again, this could change by the time we get to the draft, but sitting here today in December, people don't think this is necessarily a great class for tackle. Well, you need a right tackle. So what happens if you draft a tackle at like 6th overall? I'm sure Titans fans be ready for that. Be real fired up for that.
Yeah, boy, that'd be a tough sell. Now you make me. I mean, you're gonna make me go to a mock draft, aren't you? I mean, I think like
drafting a left tackle, moving Latham over to right. Heard that the idea thrown out there yesterday too.
No, there you go. That would go over really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes these things change, but the word on the street from the draft analysts is that that the tackles are not like I don't know that there are. I think Banks from Texas is viewed as a first rounder, but it's not what it has been in the past. Again, if there's one you love, then you can do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I mean, think about that. Just the tapestry of high drafted tackles for the Titans. I guess if you keep doing, at some point you have to hit on one, right?
Yeah, I think so. By the way, Jacob on the YouTube chat saying, I love how Joe is broadcasting from Jerry Jones's basement. Good stuff. Good for you, Joe.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, hey, man, I'm not going to do it, but I could swing this around. I got Cowboys helmets. I got multiple. I got a Legos Cowboy helmet up here. Yeah, again, we got like signed Dion and Jason Witten jerseys behind me. And whoo boy, it's funny. So real quick, shout out to my nephew Liam, who his playlist includes Pink Floyd, Deep Purple. I'm very proud of him, but he a big Cowboys fan, just growing up like this. But now the Lions are his number 2. So, the Lions are starting to sort of infringe on Cowboys territory now. Just letting you know.
Yep, absolutely. So on the Levis front, like if you're him looking at this, I mean, I can't envision a scenario where you're back next year that's anything other than, well, it's a prove it year again for you. Like, right? Like, yeah, you're going to be, let's say Levis is a starting quarterback again next year for the Titans. It's basically going to be the same talking points that we had heading into this year, right? Other than you're 1 year closer to that that decision date with the contract. Like that's the difference, right? Like you'd be in year 3 on a 4-year deal as a second round pick, and you'd be 1 year closer to that decision point on a contract. But like all the pressure, all the decisions that we talked about heading into the season in terms of him and where things stand with the quarterback market, you'd be right back with it again next year if you're Will Levis, and that's the route the Titans choose to go.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's the case and you're him, you should be grateful.
I agree.
I mean, that's all you can. You get another offseason, try to grow. And look, he would never say this, but also you sitting there like, please freaking give me some offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Like, can I get a young, another receiver? I mean, Hopkins is gone. Give me like a young receiver who can actually play, et cetera, right? I mean, if you're him, certainly you're like, can I have one season without a buns offensive line?
Yeah.
I mean, but no question. It would have had to have been, I mean, a Jaden Daniels Stroud last year type of year this year for Levis to be any, you know what I mean? To be anything but more than just basically another prove it year.
Yep, no doubt about it. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Mark Byington, Vanderbilt men's basketball coach. We'll get his thoughts on the way the season has gone to this point. Look ahead to conference play as well. 1025 The Game, Cromwell Media have teamed up with the Nashville Predators for Coats for Kids, benefiting the Boys and Girls Club of Middle Tennessee. Starting on Monday, you could donate new or slightly used coats at the Game Studio and at the Ford Ice Centers in Antioch, Bellevue, and Clarksville. Also on Friday, December the 20th, the Game will be at the Ford Ice Center in Bellevue from 9 to 6, taking donations, giving away swag, and tickets to an upcoming Preds game. Coat donations will be accepted at the Preds home game also on December 21st at Bridgestone Arena as well. So keep that in mind. For more information, visit thegamenashville.com/coach. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Nick Keyser here with you on this Friday morning. Vanderbilt men's basketball team off to a hot start this season at 9-1. To help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in Vanderbilt men's basketball coach Mark Byington to the program. Mark, good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. Thanks, guys, for having me on.
Appreciate you taking time to be with us. So, Mark, I just mentioned it. You guys off to a great start this year. You've taken down Virginia Tech, big win against TCU. What have you made of the start to your season? What have you learned about this group to this point?
Yeah, I mean, you said the key word there. It's just the start. And I'm almost, I had the philosophy of us just getting better, throughout the season. And I take pride in you watching us in November and us looking better in December. And then same thing when we get to January, February, March. And, we did a really good job in November of really just coming together as a team. A lot of new guys, pretty much everybody's a new guy. They came together and they've been playing unselfish. And I think the big thing, if you watch our team, it's a lot of times it's a different guy every night. And guys are contributing in different ways and they're contributing to winning.
So how do you foster that? I mean, is it as simple as you just have to spend as much time together as possible? Obviously you're playing as much as you can, things like that. But how do you accelerate a process like that when you're completely new, like you said, Mark?
It's not easy, but actually it's kind of modern college athletics, especially college basketball, where there's guys transferring in and there's going to be major turnovers on your roster. So, with just a little experience of having it, in the last couple of years, you got to find guys who care about winning first and care about each other. And you got to basically vet that in the recruiting process. And if they're coming in for individual, goals and that's their sole thing for transferring or coming in, then they're not going to care about winning. They're not going to care about somebody else around them. So really in the recruiting process, you're trying to, during that speed dating as fast as possible, find guys who, fit Vanderbilt but also, fit what you want to in the basketball culture.
So, Mark, what about the performance from Jason Edwards when you guys took down TCU, 83-74, the final score? He scores 30 off the bench. What did you make of his performance and that win for you guys?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm dating myself, but there was a guy with the Detroit Pistons back in the day, Vinny the Microwave Johnson. And,
baby, loved him.
Yeah, and on that Pistons team, he would just come in and just what the word is, he would get heated up quickly, and it doesn't take Jason Edwards very long to get heated up. He can score in bunches. I like the fact that if you look at his shooting percentages, shooting numbers, they're way up from where they were in the rest of his career, shooting at a better percentage. And we're going to need him to score. And, he's a dynamic scorer, can do it in different ways and do it quickly. But I think he's doing a really good job of kind of doing it in the framework of the team and our offense and figuring out when it's his time to go.
Yeah, you just brought up my favorite sports team of all time, the Bad Boys Pistons. So yes, much love for
I was a
Microwave.
Bulls fan, so I hated them, but then you start respecting them.
Yeah. Michael Jordan 1-3 against the Pistons in the playoffs, actually. But
here we go.
I know. Yeah, sorry. I bring it up from time to time. But Mark, Jason has started 7 games for you guys, and like you said, that was Vinny Johnson's role. Is that how you envision him then this year? Is he work best as a guy who kind of changes the pace of the game, coming off the bench and can give you that scoring?
No, nothing's permanent with us, and roles evolve and roles change, and the team needs change, and. What we needed for him the last couple of games is, we needed that kind of just energy and spark off the bench. And it kind of fit with the first half of him playing with guys that kind of fit with what he's going to do on the court and allows him to be great. And I like the fact right now, I mean, you look at our so-called bench, to me, they're starters that just don't get introduced in the game to start the game. But MJ Collins has a huge game, coming off the bench at Virginia Tech, and Tyler Tanner's been fantastic all year. He's a freshman, he's 18 years old. He probably looks like he's 15, but he plays like he's 25. I mean, he's out there just changing the game, defensively and with his energy.
So, Mark, I've got to ask you. I mean, conference play is right around the corner when the calendar flips to 2025. You know what the SEC has been able to do so far has been outrageous in the SEC ACC challenge. I mean, just huge wins all across the board. Rexrode has called it the best college basketball conference he's ever seen, and you guys haven't even gotten into conference play yet. So, just what do you make of the league that you're stepping into, and just the state of SEC basketball? And where you guys kind of fit into it as we're getting ready for conference play here in just a few weeks.
Yeah, there are some numbers that are backing up what Rexrode said. We're getting the analytics and the numbers saying that it might be the best conference basketball league for the year of all time. And for me, I was laughing to somebody today. I was like, look, I knew I was going to the SEC. I didn't know I was going in the NBA South. And that's what it kind of feels like, where everybody's good, and that it. I knew it was going to be a challenge. It's probably way more than even I was anticipating. But at the same time, with what everybody's done non-conference, there's going to be great win possibilities in the league, and there's no such thing as a bad loss. And sometimes you get to that selection Sunday and you see they put that category up there of bad losses. There won't be any of those that has a SEC team saying bad loss. And you got to get in that league and win as many as you can. But that's still a month from now. So, it's one thing to sit there and say, all right, we know that's coming. The best way you prepare for that is today get better in practice and continue to get better day by day. And by the time our numbers call and the game times for the SEC games, we better be the best we can be.
And of course, Mark, as you know, look, I mean, 8 years ago, we were talking here about, gosh, how is SEC men's basketball this bad? It's so many of these programs have obviously invested, they made good coaching hires, a lot of things that have to go along with this. And I'm looking at Vanderbilt right now, this football season that you guys just had. Obviously, Shea Ralph has it rolling with her program. The facilities are coming on. You've got, I know that obviously facilities may not be as important now with NIL and everything, but still you have to have good facilities, right? And you guys are going to have them. What do you see, I guess your place in the SEC as a basketball program, but also the larger picture of the athletic department right now?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a better time to be a part of Vanderbilt sports than right now. Right now, I'm looking out my office, and we got a brand new practice facility. We just moved in on Monday, and my view overlooks the football field. I'm looking in the back of the football stadium, and they're building luxury suites and expanding the stadium, and then obviously the success the football team had. You mentioned Shea. They got a terrific team. If you haven't seen them play, they got one of the best freshmen in the country. Actually, one of the best players in the country. She just happens to be a freshman. And there's the Tim Corbin and kind of what he's been doing. But at the same time, like the SEC, I think really invested in basketball. If you're talking about my kind of theory from the outside, now I'm on the inside. And it was the coaches, it was facility, it's NIL, to where it wasn't going to be something where football did their thing and then you're kind of waiting for football season next year. I think they wanted to have the national attention in the winter, and the next thing is for the SEC to do really well in the NCAA tournament, and that hasn't been that way here recently. But I mean, if you kind of did project the brackets right now, there's probably might be 2 or 3 number 1 seeds out of the SEC right now. It's that good. So the time in the SEC is challenging, but it really is. It's the best in every sport. Football, baseball, basketball. You pick the sport, gymnastics. You pick it, and it's an honor to be a part of it. It's a challenge to be a part of it. But you want to go against the best. You want to be in this league.
No doubt about it. Well, Mark, really appreciate your time as always. Look forward to watching you guys the rest of the season here, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you all.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Vanderbilt men's basketball coach Mark Byington, our guest here on the program. We'll take your thoughts. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. The Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode coming up next. We'll have Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, coming up at 8 o'clock. All that ahead. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Sometimes he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed. And sometimes he's just, well, Joe.
Awkward moment, let's do it.
This is the Rex Rant, now on Robby and Rexrode.
One story I always heard was Billy's first words were, beat Duke.
Okay, shh, here he comes. Hiya, Mr. Belichick.
Who the heck are you? What do you want?
We are Carolina football.
Chancellor, thank you for the sweatshirt, but the truth of the matter is, I already have one. It's good to have two. It's actually my dad's from when he coached here.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rex Rant with Joe Rexrode. You can check it out every morning here on the program. Joseph, the floor is yours with the beautiful dulcet tones of Bill Belichick in the background.
Yeah, and in my background, look, I have this Deion Sanders and Jason Witten jerseys. You know, that could have been his, man. He could have been part of Cowboys lore if he would have stuck it out. You know, we could have had Jerry and Bill, and that would have been a lot of fun. But instead, he went to college football and then tried to spin it that he was telling the NFL, I break up with you. You don't break up with me. I break up with you, when in reality, the NFL has broken up with Bill Belichick, but that's okay. I'm not really ranting about him. I'm going to vote. I'm going to bet on the disappointing. I don't know, like total disaster. I don't know that this is going to be like, you know, Urban Meyer with the Jags, or like Charlie Weiss with Kansas or something like that.
Is Matt Patricia going to be his offensive coordinator? Because if that's the case, I'll go disaster.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't even thought about that one. I guess it's not going to be Josh McDaniels, so that's probably good. But I'm gonna bet it's not going to be what they hope. But I want to talk. I just want to really what I want to do today, Robbie, is I want to set the record straight on this. This thing really got something that we have. And again, I mean, most of these rants are just recycled, aren't they? Because of different situations. And so here's another one, which is reporting, man. Reporting in anonymous sources. There was a reporter yesterday, and I don't remember his name, and I don't care to. There's another one on Twitter, and one who went on, I think, Dan Le Batard's show, like basically, trying to dance around, thump the chest, take credit. And actually, I know the guy who it's like Inside Carolina went on Le Batard's show was basically like talking trash Adam Schefter, like, I broke this story and all this stuff. So I know a fair amount about this just basically from observing coworkers doing correct reporting on this and like actually reporting things that are truly happening. And anybody who said that this was done like 2 days ago or even early yesterday, and that when others, including us, The Athletic, were reporting, and Adam Schefter, ESPN, were reporting, yeah, it's not done. They haven't got to the finish line. Like there's hangups, there's money, like they have not hit the money. See, that was correct. So this is like what people. So when you do something, report something inaccurately because you went with a not the best source, or you didn't get both sides of a story, and then later it happens, and then you get to try to dunk on people and say you had it first. No, B freaking S. You did not. You actually were wrong. So another thing that happened in this is that our guys, Ralph Russo, friend of the show, and Brendan Marks, reported that the contract was 3 years for $30 million.
Yeah, and
then the agent got out there that it was 5 for 50 when we actually got our hands. So our reporters actually apologized publicly and said, sorry for the, got it wrong. Then because that's the report that came out, and it said apparently they thought it was 5. You see the contract, it is a 3 year. It's a 3-year contract with 2-year options. So they were correct. That's how you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to take accountability. Even if you're not certain that you're wrong, you're not supposed to go out there and brag and BS people when you did not have it. Also, the 400-page thing. Yeah. I mean, Belichick laughed at that crap yesterday. I mean, it's just, it's
the Belichick Bible is what they referred to it as.
Yeah. I mean, what do you say? Like, who the hell has a 400-page document?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's just whatever.
It's like Dave Chappelle out there yesterday, just funny as can be.
Yeah. I wanted a little more. I wanted a little more from him. But anyway, I'll stop now, but just like, if you have something great, and then you can go ahead and thump your chest. As much as Adam Schefter gets crap, and that I sometimes dish it out there, like, that guy does have sources, and like this idea that he's out there putting fake stuff out. He doesn't get stuff wrong too often, does he?
No.
No, he does not. It's just really, it's beyond annoying. It's just irresponsible, and it pisses me off. So that's it.
What do you make of the report that's out there that Belichick's buyout after 1 year goes down to like $1 million? Leaving a little
Yeah.
leeway there for the NFL?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what it is. I mean, basically, and I think that's part of, by the way, why it wasn't done 2 days ago when people were trying to claim it was. I think that's a pretty significant part of this whole thing, isn't it? That essentially, if all of a sudden the NFL's like, "Oh, Bill, nice 9-3 season. How about a little NFL?" You say, "Well, thanks, Carolina. I really enjoyed my time in college, and that'll do." So yeah, very interesting. I mean, it's obviously built to give him an easy escape if by chance he gets it. And again, then you're asking what NFL team next fall he's 74.
Right.
Who's not, what I mean? Who's signing up for that? I mean, I don't know, but if it happens, he's ready.
Well, I agree with what you said from the start. I mean, this feels like the NFL kind of like breaking up with Bill Belichick and him reading the tea leaves and recognizing that there was probably no job offer coming. And it looks like, Joe, I mean, things can change, but you're right. Like, so let's say he has a good year in Carolina. So is somebody going to go hire the 73-year-old to be the head coach of the football team at that point? When you've got, I would think, a long-term vision in mind for your franchise? Like, is that what you're going to do at that point? Like, it feels like this wins record that he's 14 wins shy of is just going to stay that way when it comes to Don Shula. Now, does that really matter at the end of the day? I mean, I'm sure it matters to him, but like most people generally consider him the greatest NFL coach of all time anyway. So, like, how much does that really matter?
Yeah. Well, I get, yeah. Look, his place in NFL history, the rings matter, right? Like that's really what matters. He's got those. No one can take him away from him. I will say when you're that close, and that's a tough record, obviously. That longevity to be able to win that many games in this league is that's a hell of a record. You're
Well,
right.
who knows? Brady may unretire and come win another one at some point with the Raiders, and then that's another one that the Belichick's got to catch up with.
That's right. Yeah, you got that too. Well, apparently Brady is. There's something came out this week like Brady is like really heavily, like he's going to have a lot of power in that organization. That's next time for Charles. We need to get into that because again,
then he's going to go call a game on Sunday.
Yeah, like that's fine. If that's really what it's going to be, where he really is like a driving force behind a franchise in the league, he has to stop doing TV. I'm sorry. And if he was awesome at TV, I might not be as stringent on that, but he has to stop.
Hey, he's getting better. I'm enjoying him.
That's what I hear. He's getting better.
He
did criticize Sean McDermott for just an absolute coaching malpractice, trying to goal line sneak when you could have saved your 3 timeouts, which is what Dan Campbell did, by the way, with the Lions against the Niners last year too. So good for Brady for calling that out at least.
615-737-1025 is our phone number, 615-737-1025. Coming up next, we'll be joined by Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, host of Jake and TD. A lot of things going on with TD out there. We'll get into the Titans, their matchup against the Bengals, all things Titans coming up next as well. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode. You're on 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
ESPN's Turon Davenport, Talking Titans, now on Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is that time of the week here on Robby and Rexrode. We head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our man, Turon Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, host of Jake and TD. There's nothing this man can't do. TD, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, man. I'm feeling good, man. How you guys?
We're awesome, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, TD, on the Levis front, we were throwing it out there earlier for Titans fans. Like, what would you rather see? Would you rather see Levis back as the starting quarterback next year? Would you rather see them move on to a different option? And that's obviously a decision the Titans are going to have to make here as they move forward. One question we threw out there earlier this week, I'd be interested to get your opinion on. There's no doubt that Levis has improved from the start of this season to where he is now. My question for you is, how much better do you think Levis is from the ending point of last season until now? Because I think that may be a more difficult question to answer.
Yeah, I think he's better, but the problem is he started further behind than anyone in that building probably thought he would. Those mistakes and the different things that he was doing, it wasn't acceptable. So he's improved and got those out the way, but the problem is the improvement and the level that he's at week 15 should have been that level at like week 2, week 1, so there's progress. That's great, but it's not the progress, and he's not at the point where they need him to be now.
So I agree with you, TD. So how does that fit into the evaluation of the coaching staff? I would say that obviously there's some things Levis doesn't have around him in the offense. But obviously, Brian Callahan was excited about him and was brought here largely because of his QB experience and obviously being a successful OC, but not a play calling OC at Cincinnati. Is it fair to look at the whole thing with Levis, even think back to last year when he didn't make the same level of killer mistakes, which of course that's early this year more, but still looking at the whole thing, is it fair to wonder about Brian Callahan and quarterback development?
Absolutely. It's fair. It's actually necessary. I mean, you can't just say, hey, he has nothing to do with it. He was brought here to help Levis progress, right? And the thing is, what I take into account is I wonder, okay, this year Levis is playing to be the guy. It's a clear audition. I wonder if he was pressing too much because of that earlier this year, and that's the real thing that you got to look at. But regardless, it is Brian Callahan's job to bring him along. And I think, like I said, the progress is coming, but he's just not where he should have been.
So, TD, bringing up Brian Callahan, I mean, he was asked about his job status earlier this week. And look, I get it. When you're the head coach of a 3-10 football team, that question's probably coming at some point. There's no doubt it's been an incredibly disappointing season. On the other hand, it is his first season, and it's not like, this was all roses before he got here either. So how do you view where that conversation stands with Brian Callahan and his job?
Yeah, well, everybody, when they're first starting their job, like their first year on the job, is you start at one point and you just continue to improve and get better. You're not the premier, whatever, forklift driver or mailman or whatever when you first start the job. So it's just funny to me how everybody says, okay, hey, fire him, he's not doing it. I guarantee you a lot of those people that are saying that were not good in their first year on the job. So to me, it's just like, okay, yes, you do need to have better results, but also at the same time, you could understand that it's a process. And we just, I say it over and over again, as a society, we're so caught up in this microwave instant process, and it's just not always that way. And I think this is a good example of it. And again, the results are not there. It's not satisfactory, but at the same time, you got to understand that it is a process.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's going to be. I mean, it's obviously there's so much of this tied up. We got three things here: the quarterback, front office, and the coaching. And obviously, Titans fans are upset. But you know, it's also just this if you do make a big move, first of all, what does that say about what you're doing? How would everybody have any confidence in you? And speaking of ownership, TD, and we've talked about this before too, and I am going to like look into this, but we've talked this week some about, you know, again, Amy Armstrong not being publicly available. Like, okay, so you've covered the Eagles and the Niners before this, for example. Like, what was the ownership availability there, and what's your sense for around the league? Like, what's a reasonable amount of availability for an owner?
Yeah, well, I'll say this: Jed York was always available. He spoke a lot. Now, I haven't seen him speak a lot more recently, but I mean, you look at him. Steve Bisciotti, I remember he spoke, but most of it was Ozzie Newsome, you know, and then in Philly, Howie Roseman. He spoke, but he didn't really speak a lot. He spoke more to one of the media people. I think, you know, at the bare minimum, either Chad Brinker, Rand Carthon, or Amy Armstrong should have spoke after the trade deadline. No one speaking after the trade deadline was that front office dropping the ball. And I've said this to multiple people, you know, that I'm talking about. One of them should have spoke. It is really bad that none of them spoke. So I would say the minimum, I think, once, at least once, you know, somebody had to talk and just, hey, look, man, we made this trade. This is where we're at. This is the direction that we're going. This is the expectation for this year. I think that needed to be reestablished.
Yep, no doubt about that. So TD, Jeffrey Simmons, after the game on Sunday, talked about how he's tired of seeing his quarterback, you know, getting his block knocked off and lying flat on his back. And look, we all have eyeballs. We can see that he's absolutely right. It is a little bit of a change in terms of the public comments after the game. What did you make of what Jeffrey Simmons had to say on that front?
I think what he said was right. And I think he did have a right to make those comments. It wasn't along the lines of pointing fingers or anything like that, because, you know, that offense knows full well that, you know, he and the defense, they believe in them and they back them. So it's just one of those things where, hey, look, like, this is what I'm tired of seeing is bad. Let's fix it. You know, I think that's really what it was.
It feels like we hardly ever talk about the actual football games happening, but there is a game Sunday, TD. And I'm interested in your perspective because I know you watch these teams closely. The Bengals, obviously, they've let some guys go on defense, and Mixon is, to me, that was a critical mistake by them. But when you look at that defense, I mean, Lou Anarumo, I know the guy knows how to coach defense. Are they just hopeless personnel-wise?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're not getting a great play from their safeties. The guys up front, you know, Sam Hubbard, he's a legit pass rusher. Trey Hendrickson's the absolute truth. So you do have that. I think it's just, like I said, I think it's more in the secondary. You know, teams are finding ways to get those points up on them. They're giving up, I want to say, 20-something a game. I mean, it's bad. You know, to have that record and have that offense that's scoring 28 to 30 a game, it tells you all you need to know about the defense.
No doubt about it. So TD, we were going through this earlier. I mean, you're 3-10. You've got, you know, a month left of football here to try to weed your way through this thing. You've got Jacksonville on the schedule again, who just beat you. Indianapolis on the schedule, who has beaten you earlier this year. But it's not like these games are unwinnable. So how do you view where the Titans currently stand in terms of the draft part of this? And do you actually believe like the number one overall pick is legitimately in the running here for the Titans, given how bad like the Raiders and the Giants are, for example?
Yeah, I mean, Raiders and Giants are bad, but guess what? Titans are basically just as bad. So,
yep.
Yeah, I think the number one pick is legitimately in the running for them. Now, when you look at this thing as far as what's left to do this month, it's pride, right? And I love the way all of the guys are saying that. You know, Jeffrey Simmons, hey, you got to play for the number on your back. J.C. Latham, hey, you know, it's not like we're just going to line up there and say we don't give a F and it is what it is. No, I mean, Simmons said if you feel it is what it is and feel you don't have anything to play for, your ASS will be out the league soon. These are very strong statements that these guys are making. Calvin Ridley, he said, look, man, I'm trying to get 1,000 yards. I want to help this team. I believe we're out of the playoffs, but we got to build momentum going into next year. And I think that's what it's about. Like, you build the winning culture. Like, it wouldn't be a coincidence if this team won all the games down the stretch and had a good year next year. I'm not saying they're going to win all the games. So let's, leave my timeline alone. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying if they were to do that, that's the goal. That's why it's the goal for them to be able to, build that momentum. And then as far as the draft, one other thing, like if you don't have the first or second pick, I really don't think it matters if you're anywhere from 3 to 10, because first and second pick, you're looking at Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter. Me personally, I love Cam Ward as a prospect. I think he's a very dynamic player, but I don't think this organization can afford to draft him. I think the only quarterback that they could draft and expect to, have some type of success is Shador. And it's just because I feel he's a very polished prospect. He's a lot like C.J. Stroud, and I think he's ready to go now. I think there's just too many questions. Like with Cam Ward, you get a lot of those Will Levis type of plays, right? Where it's like, come on, man, why did you do that? You know what I mean? But then at the same time, you're like, wow, I love that you did that. So to me, Shador or bust at quarterback. But then you look from 3 to 10, I mean, Abdul Carter, Ted McMillan, Luther Burden, Will Campbell's in there. Like, there's a lot of different prospects that are pretty much like on a similar level that you could get between those 7, 3 to 10.
Well, yeah, real quick on that too, TD, because I think their realistic ceiling is 3. Just looking at I'd be surprised if they're better than that 3. If they are there and it goes QB, is Travis Hunter enough of a prospect that you could get a haul out of that? Not like a number 1 pick haul, but a pretty good haul.
I mean, it's possible you find 10. As a matter of fact, I believe the Jets traded up to get Jamal Adams at 2, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, there have been times where teams traded up to get a guy. And, I mean, if someone like the Jaguars or something like that, like they feel they're a playmaker away, boom, you might have a good trade. So I wouldn't rule it out.
TD, great stuff, man. Really appreciate you taking time to be with us. We'll catch you later on Jake and TD, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, for sure. Appreciate you guys. Take care.
Absolutely. Teron Davenport, our guest on Robby and Rexrode, joins us every Friday morning at 8 o'clock here on the program. We'll react to what TD had to say. Take your thoughts on the Titans, 615-737-1025. Pigskin Pick'em coming up at 8:30. All that ahead, Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I got some tickets to give away to the TransPerfect Music City Bowl at Nissan Stadium on Monday, December 30th. You caller 5-615-737-1025. Caller 5 will win a pair of tickets to the TransPerfect Music City Bowl between Missouri and Iowa at Nissan Stadium coming up on Monday, December the 30th. Appreciate TD for being on with us in the last segment. A lot of reaction to the Titans on our text line. TD pretty clear, Joe. I mean, he feels like Shedeur is like the one quarterback that he would entertain drafting if you're the Titans. And much past that, based on where they're drafting, not sure if he would go for anybody else in the draft.
Although, yeah, some good words for Cam Ward, too, which I agree with. I mean, Cam Ward intrigues the heck out of me. I mean, look, I could see both of them being great. I think it's possible, but, you need to probably barf. Now, barf for Arch doesn't really work. I don't know. But a lot of people are talking about, 26 and Arch. So get ready for that. I'd like to go to Kenny G on the text line, our good friend Kenny G. He likes to rip us. He thinks that we love Vrabel. I think that's the big theme with him.
I do love Vrabel.
Yeah, I mean, right, but like we, I guess, never criticize Vrabel or something. I don't know.
Okay.
But his point being, I would rather hear from Rand than Amy. He says it's beyond silly calling her a bad owner. You're only doing so because she fired an underperforming head coach you have a man crush on. You constantly say, let football people make the football decision. Wait a minute. Who are you texting? What show are you texting? Anyway, his point, not many owners speak to the media the way you want. Not many fans care if she speaks. And I want to hear from Rand. Well, look, I agree. And just like TD said, we sometimes about ownership. I am going to separate the two, though. Rand should also talk periodically. He should, again, be more accessible.
That should be a given.
Yeah, like both things can happen, right? But you separate the owner just like once a year, or when there's something huge. When something like last year happens, doing a video with Mike Keith is just not good enough on your own website. It's weak. And again, this owner, considering what just happened for her financially from the people here, it also changes things. But I'm with you on Rand. Rand should speak more. I mean, I understand the idea of not talking like during the season. It's a football coach. I get the coaches. But again, as Gentry pointed out in the column he wrote yesterday that's gotten a lot of attention, deservedly so, at this point, it is just Brian Callahan is just speaking for everything.
Yeah.
And when it's all these things that are going bad, you got to have someone besides him. You can't just make him do it all. So separate things. But, yeah, everybody we've talked to, I mean, here's another one, Jed York. There you go. Talks all the time. I mean, like, you're not finding too many owners who are complete recluses who never talk to anybody.
Well, and the bottom line is part of what he's talking about there is true. Like, if the Titans were winning all these games, the fans wouldn't care. They would not care if the owner's speaking. But they're not. And they're losing all the time. And it costs an arm and a leg to get into the next stadium with the PSL prices. And again, you're watching a horrible product, which, by the way, like it or not, if you want to, you can trace the horrible product to some decisions that she's made, right? Like, I mean, that's what it is in today's NFL. And the bottom line is, since she's made the decisions that she's made to fire Robinson and Vrabel, they're horrible. They're one of the worst teams in the league. So, yeah, like it does matter. And I understand that. Is it the world's most important thing that the owner speaks to the media? No. And if they were winning games, would anyone care? No. But they're not winning games. And it is a horrible product. And every now and then, once every year, I don't think it's a whole lot to ask for your owner to be accountable and to address the concerns of her fan base that is going on with this football team right now. I mean, this should be a given. I don't know why this is such a huge deal, but apparently it is.
Yeah, I get the idea. I mean, look, if you're a fan, also get the perspective of, listen, I know the owner can't change, so I want the people who are actually doing the football stuff. Like, that's who I'm more interested in, and that's fine. But yes, ultimately, she has created the situation. I mean, like it or not. Yeah. Now, again, some people like the John Robinson firing, some people like the Vrabel firing. All that, that's fine. But at this very moment, with everything that's gone on, all the public messaging and lack thereof in some ways, it does matter. It's not insignificant. It means something. And I think, what Charles said yesterday was, and the guy's been covering this league for 30 years or 25 years or whatever. I mean, you just don't want to go there as an owner.
No doubt. What did you make of TD's comments on Brian Callahan in terms of his job security as they move forward? 3-10 in his first season. TD seems to be of the opinion that moving on from the coach after 1 year would be just an atrocity. What do you make of what he had to say there?
Yeah, I mean, look, I certainly, the coach isolated, like I say, that to me doesn't compute at all for me, based on what I know. I mean, what I know is the product, which is bad, and it has not been an impressive season of coaching, but also publicly with Callahan, how he's handled things. Again, and just the idea that, to me, if you do that in this league, 1 year, there better be some unbelievable malpractice going on behind the scenes, right? I mean, that's what I think. I don't think the product is so bad. Like, there's no redeeming qualities we've seen all year. We were praising him after the Houston win. So again, the Callahan discussion on its own, to me, that would be wild. The full, caught up in the idea of if they move on for the front office, then it's like, well, he's just, this is just how the new GM has to have his own guy. Okay, well, that's different, right? I mean, that sometimes, I mean, that could make sense. It would be too bad for him. It'd be a rut. If you're him, you're looking back and saying, why did I pick that freaking place?
That'd be tough.
But that's the only way, to me, it could even be conceivable.
And then the Levis part of this too. I mean, we've had a lot of people weigh in today about whether or not he should be the quarterback next year, and if so, is it more because you don't love the other options that are out there? That's only going to get more and more of a talking point as we go on here, Joe. You got a month left in the season. We'll see how he plays coming up down the stretch. But like I've said this a couple weeks ago, and I stand by it now. Like, if you're the Titans, along with everything else that you've got to look at this offseason in terms of your roster and what you're trying to build, quarterback's got to be a big part of it. Like, you got to look long and hard at the quarterbacks in this draft. And look, maybe you get to the end of it and you come to the conclusion that you don't really love any of them, or you're not in a position to draft the one guy or two guys that you really like coming out of this. But I think, people always say, in front office, people always say that they look at everything every offseason and they're always evaluating quarterbacks and all that stuff. And maybe that's true to a certain degree. We all know that there are certain teams and certain front offices where there's no reason to evaluate a quarterback. Like, it just doesn't make any sense based on where you are as a franchise. I'd be looking long and hard at each one of these quarterbacks if I'm the Titans this offseason. And if you get to the evaluation that they're not good enough, then so be it. But that has to be a part of your offseason plan here.
No, the offseason has to be, you are taking the approach of a team that's taking a quarterback. You have to. And you may even in your heart believe like Levis, but you have to be as schooled and studied on all these guys as any other franchise in the league is, even the ones that know they're taking a quarterback.
Yes.
Because you cannot mess this up. I want to get some quick text. It's popping. I'm text line guy today. Matt says, I very much enjoy the fact we don't have a Dallas Cowboys situation where Amy's always in front of the camera. Okay. Again, we're not saying that. There is a medium ground there. Texter asks, how many press conferences did John Robinson have when he was a GM? I remember his press conference after Kevin Dodd. Yeah, and his press conference was, guys, I screwed up. I own it. And then ask him questions. And then Pekarsky was like, yeah, I know you said it, but I still want you to say it again. I mean, that's basically what happened. Okay. I mean, John Robinson did press conferences when
major moves were made,
when things happen, which is just, it's what you should do. And by the way, John Robinson also was very accessible beyond that to people, I believe, everybody who covered that team. And that is another thing that a GM needs to understand, is being accessible to basically the primary press corps. Dylan says, if I was the owner, I'd want to speak on my decisions because I want clarity on why I made those decisions rather than having rumors and speculations going on about why I made those decisions. Yeah. True. If you have good answers for people. Yeah, that's true. That is,
that would be the prerequisite there.
If you're confident in your reasoning, then I would think you would want to talk.
Absolutely. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Pigskin Pick'em coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025-1063, The Game.
Now, it's time for Pigskin Pick'em with Robby and Rexrode on ESPN 1025 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
It is time for Pigskin Pick'em here on Robby and Rexrode. Bowl season is upon us in college football. The college football playoff right around the corner, and we are in the thick of the NFL season as well. Joe Rexrode, a quick standings update in the competition.
Yeah, well, apparently Nick did do his lock. I mean, I haven't listened to the audio, but I'm going to believe Nick that he said lock on whatever that one that he won was. So you guys had great weeks. 5-1 with your lock, Robby. 4-2 with your lock, Nick. I went 3-3 with no lock, which means our standings. Nick, 15-40, 11-4 on a lock, 61 points. Me, 51-39, 6-9 on my locks, 57 points, 4 back. And Robby now up to 48-42, 6-9 on locks, and 54 points. Only 3 behind me.
Yeah,
only
baby.
7 behind Nick. We got a race here.
Yeah, baby. Coming down to crunch time here. We begin with Army and Navy. Army, a 6.5-point favorite in this matchup. Nick Keyser, who we got in the Army-Navy matchup?
I might be disowned if I go against Army, and for the sake of my sanity and for my life, I'm going to go with Army minus 6.5 this weekend.
Going with Army minus the 6.5. Joe Rexrode, I know where you're going, but make it official anyway.
So here's the thing, real quick. Yeah,
what are you about to do?
Well, hey man, like this Pigskin Pick'em. I mean, look, I grew up rooting for Army. My dad was an Army guy, not a West Point guy, but an Army guy. So this is a tradition that we always had. I'm covering the game tomorrow. Very excited to do it. I have always loved Army and rooted for Army in this game, but I'm picking Navy in the 6.5.
Oh.
Blake, I know, but Blake Horvath, man, throws it around, and I actually think, and they've lost 2 in a row, and I think they're gonna outright win tomorrow.
Wow, I'm stunned. Man. I'm stunned.
You can't just pick with your heart, man.
This is buns.
Give me Army and make it my lock. I'm locking down on Army. I feel great about it heading into tomorrow's matchup. Rexrode's going to rue the day that he went against Army and took Navy in this matchup. I'm so stunned by this.
Man, I'm an Army-Navy traitor. I'm sorry.
Good gracious.
I hope I win.
Ooh. We move to the Titans and the Bengals coming up at Nissan Stadiums. Joe, Cincinnati, a 4.5-point favorite in this matchup. Who you got in this one?
Yeah, I mean, I'm done picking the Titans on anything until I see something very different. So give me the Bengals. It's almost my lock, but I'll just go Bengals.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cincinnati as well. Joe Burrow might score 35 points in this game. Now, look, Cincinnati's defense is also cheeks, but I don't have enough confidence in the Titans' offense to put up enough points. Give me Cincinnati minus the 4.5. Nick Keyser, who we got?
I do not have confidence in the Titans as well. Give me the Home Alone-looking Joe Burrow to take down the Two-Tone Blue this weekend.
Home Alone. You making a Macaulay Culkin comparison?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. How about that? I mean, I guess I don't know that I've ever thought about it, Joe, but he does kind of look like it.
Oh, really? Oh, hell yes, he does. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff.
Y'all have never realized that. Wow.
No, I've seen that comparison made. There was actually some good tweets this week showing Macaulay Culkin, like, next time they try to break in the house and it's like Macaulay Culkin.
The memes are insurmountable whenever I see them.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. All right, the Buffalo Bills taking on the Detroit Lions. Big time matchup in the NFL this weekend. Lions, a 2.5-point favorite in this one. Give me the Lions. I'm done picking against the Lions. The Lions are going to win every game from here on out. I'll take the Lions minus the 2.5 against the Buffalo Bills. Nick Keyser, who you got in this matchup?
I think Josh Allen's going to roll over the Lions, Robby. So give me the Buffalo Bills this weekend. They are one of the NFL's hottest teams, and I think they dethrone the Lions this weekend.
Joe Rexrode, the Bills and the Lions. Lions a 2.5-point favorite.
A mighty team that will not yield. Thank you. I thought I'd be on an island. Absolutely give me the Bills. They're going to kick their ass. The Lions aren't going to win another game this year.
Jeez. Just the disrespect continuing to mount for Rexrode and the Lions. At least that stays consistent. Let's head to the individual portion of the program. Joe Rexrode, your first individual selection.
So I'm looking at Patriots, Cardinals -6. Cardinals haven't been playing great lately. There's some life with the Patriots, but I think the Cardinals are going to win this game by double digits. Give me the Cardinals and make it my lock.
Wow.
A mighty team.
Guarantee.
Locking down on the Arizona Cardinals, -6 against the New England Patriots. Nick Keiser, your first individual selection.
You know, Kirko Chains has looked really bad. I think he's got no touchdowns and 8 picks in his last 3 or 4 games, maybe 2. But look, I think he needs a pick-me-up weekend. So give me the Falcons -3.5 over the Raiders this weekend.
Going against the lowly Las Vegas Raiders. Falcons -3.5 against Las Vegas. Give me the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl. Memphis, a 4.5-point favorite against West Virginia. All eyes will be on the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl, which I believe is taking place on Tuesday. I'll go with the Tigers -4.5 against the Mountaineers. Joe, your thoughts?
Well, good. I love it. I love the name of the bowl. I've had little Scooters, pretty good, and also good for you. Like, I totally didn't even look at the bowl games on this. Great job.
I got another one coming for you here in just a second.
Oh my goodness! See, look at you.
Nick Keiser, your second individual selection.
I think they might be the fakest 12-win team ever, but this weekend, I think they continue their hot streak of whatever you want to call. I think it's very lukewarm of a hot streak, but give me the Chiefs -4.5 over Jameis Winston and the Browns.
You just call the Kansas City Chiefs the fakest 12-win team ever, Joe. Your thoughts?
I know that wasn't the fakest. I mean, they got to be the fakest 12-win team that's won 2 straight Super Bowls ever, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I would think so. Joe Rexrode, your second individual selection.
Yep, I got that same one. Give me Chiefs. I got to go with the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to. I think they're actually going to win a game somewhat comfortably in this time. I actually think they will. They'll win by like more than a touchdown over the Browns.
In the Art of Sport LA Bowl coming up, give me UNLV plus the 1.5 against Cal. I'm actually kind of stunned that Cal's a favorite in this game. I mean, it's basically a pick 'em, but I'll go with UNLV plus the 1.5 against Cal in the Art of Sport LA Bowl, Joe.
That's a great, another great bowl. And that's a good pick, man. I definitely like that pick. God, you're going to kick our butt this week.
My final individual selection, Sunday Night Football, the Green Bay Packers against the Seattle Seahawks in what could be a wild card round preview. Packers favored by 2.5. Give me the Green Bay Packers -2.5. I think they're going to win by double digits on the road against Seattle. Joe Rexrode, your final individual selection.
Okay, and I'm sticking the NFL. I got Colts at Broncos. Broncos -4.5. Huge game for the Colts to stay relevant. And obviously a huge game for the Broncos. I'm starting to buy the Broncos, man. I'm starting to buy the Broncos. I think they're going to win this game by 10 points. Give me the Broncos.
What was the line on that one?
-4.5.
-3.5 is what I saw.
Oh, it's -3.5. Okay.
Even better.
Even better.
Going with Broncos -3.5 against the Colts. Nick Keiser, your final individual selection.
Well, I say -3.5 because that's where I'm going as well. So, Joe, don't forget it this time because this is going to be my lock this week. I am a huge fan of Bo Nix, and their defense has looked great as well. So, yeah, give me Denver and Sean Payton over the Colts.
A lot of similar thinking between Nick Keiser and Joe Rexrode this week. A lot of similar thinking.
Yeah. Well, he is winning, so but I hope that doesn't mean that Robby's about to zoom past us, man. These bowl picks.
I don't think so.
I really blew it not doing bowl picks.
I mean, Keiser had Western Kentucky for him on a platter on Wednesday in the Boca Raton Bowl and chose not to go there.
What's up with that?
Had the R&L Carriers New Orleans Bowl available to you on Thursday and chose not to do that either. All these bowl games
Western Kentucky,
you're leaving on the table, quite disrespectful.
The Hilltoppers blew it last week. I'm not feeling their bowl game. I'm really not.
The thing is, like next week, I would start really dipping into bowl games, but like it'll be like, I mean, we got the college football playoff.
I mean,
I'm going to get some Mayo Bowl in here somewhere, though. I promise.
I mean, we're going to make the selection of the Pop-Tarts Bowl whenever that takes place.
We have to.
Mandatory here on the program.
Point. That should be an annual tradition. Actually.
There are 3 mascot Pop-Tarts. I did see that on X the other day.
Really? 3 of them?
Yes, there are 3. I think it's vanilla, chocolate, and some other one. I didn't catch the other one. I don't remember. It doesn't come to mind.
Well, what a matchup. That's on Saturday, December 28th, Iowa State and Miami in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. So we'll have to be sure to remember that.
That's a nice way to ring in my birthday the night before. Wow.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. 615-737-1025, our phone number. Final thoughts on the Titans. Final thoughts on a busy weekend in sports coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025, 1063, The Game. Welcome back in. Final segment of the day. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. It is time for our 12 Days of Christmas. Brought to you by Moments Peace Salon and Day Spa. Got a $100 gift card for a Moments Peace to give away to caller number 3, 615-737-1025, 615-737-1025. Caller 3 will win a $100 gift card for a Moments Peace and will be qualified to win the grand prize of a $1,000 Genesis Diamonds gift card as well. So make sure you take advantage of that. Also, it is bowl season, and the Game Nashville Sports Network at your home for college football bowl games and the college football playoffs, presented by Twin Peaks and Parma Tractor and Equipment. Tomorrow, tune in for the Cricket Celebration Bowl as Jackson State takes on South Carolina State on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Kickoff at 11 a.m. For a list of games carried on the Game Nashville Sports Network, visit thegamenashville.com/bowl games. And even though Joe Rexrode and Nick Keyser don't care about the bowl games that are very disrespectful, I do, and a lot of us do. So make sure you check that out.
Raymond in Franklin, by the way, says New Michelle celebrating with some birthday Pop-Tarts. You know, anybody who's still calling Nick New Michelle, like I know you're a real one. I know you've been with us for a long time. We gotta go back to that. New Michelle.
I like it. That's
Robby, Joe, and New Michelle.
Yes, very good stuff. Joe, final thoughts on a game that we've not spent a ton of time talking about this weekend. The Titans in Cincinnati are actually playing football. What do you make of this matchup?
Yeah, the Bengals defense is, we were talking a little bit with TD, but not much all week. The Bengals defense is bad. Cheeks, maybe even it's bordering on buns. It's pretty bad, which is how Joe Burrow could have the numbers he has, and they could have the record they have. He mentioned safety. Jesse Bates is a guy who used to make a huge difference, for example, for them. They do have pass rushers, like TD said, though. So, again, especially obviously Hendrickson is a monster. Hubbard's good. Ohio State guy, Sam Hubbard. This is still from that perspective, that defense. The one thing that they seem to do well is, of course, the kryptonite for a Titans offense.
Yeah, there is that. Well, and look, just going through their results here. I mean, they ended up, I think they only gave up 20 last time out to Dallas. So that's a step in the right direction for a Cincinnati team that's been abysmal on that side of the ball all year. But just kind of going through it right now. They've given up 44 to Pittsburgh, 34 to the Chargers, 35 to the Ravens, 24 to the Raiders, 37 to Philadelphia. I mean, this is a horrible defense that the Titans are playing against on Sunday. Do not be the team in back-to-back weeks that makes horrible defenses look like they've got a clue. You only scored 6 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Please don't make me show up to work on Monday morning and be talking about a team that scored 10 points against the Cincinnati Bengals. Please. I don't care if you win. I don't care if you give up 700 yards to Joe Burrow. Please don't make me show up to work on Monday morning and talk about a team that only managed 10 points against Cincinnati on Sunday. Please. I'm begging you.
Please, just 138-35 loss. Is that asking too much? Okay, even like 27-23. That'd be good, right?
Yeah.
That'd be fine. That is, I mean, really, like, if you're a Titans fan right now, I mean, look, if you're a Titans fan I want my team to win. TD talked about the winning streak at the end of a season can lead into next year. I have seen that happen. That's happened a lot in the NFL. I mean, and by the way, the Lions, it happened with them. That's not a perfect comparison, but that did happen with them a couple years ago. But I think most Titans fans, it's like, offense be entertaining. Will Levis play well, so we get back on the hope train with him, but lose a close game and help your draft stock. How about that?
Yeah,
that's like checking all the boxes. I think probably for most Titans fans at this point.
I will say, look, they've for the most part, the Titans have done a pretty good job with not having L'Jarius Sneed out there in terms of the way their corners have played. I am very interested to see how the Jamar Chase matchup goes this weekend. I mean, you're talking about a different deal with that guy. I'm interested to see how the Titans defense handles that.
Woozy knows him well.
He does.
Knows him well from practice. I mean, maybe that went really well for Woozy. Maybe we're about to find out he used to dominate him in practice. And that's actually how Jamar Chase got good.
Maybe so.
I
mean, look, I'm open to anything with a Woozy. We've barely seen him step on the field this year, so it's nice to see him get a pick last week.
Yeah, he steps on the field and gets a pick. It's like, okay, well, that might have been good all year. What will it look like, if it will look like anything ever, with Awuzie and Snead both on the field. Shout out to Andrew on the text line. He says, what about new Munson? Now there we going old school, baby.
There we're talking.
That's what I'm talking about. We get
talking.
Newporth. We can get Newporth too. He was our producer for a good chunk.
No, let's come up with something new. Come on, listeners.
Wow. Keys are putting his foot down.
Weekend, setting some boundaries going into the weekend. All right.
Joe, quick question for you that has nothing to do with the actual matchup this weekend. What do you think is going to happen with T. Higgins? That was all talk last offseason about T. Higgins. Could the Titans get involved with T. Higgins? And then, of course, they went and signed Calvin Ridley. So we knew that was probably over at that point. But what do you make of T. Higgins the last 2 years that he's had? This year he's played 8 games. He's got 45 catches for 581 yards and 5 touchdowns. Obviously, you go back 2 years ago, and you're talking about 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, over 100 targets, 74 catches. And the last 2 years, he's run into some injury problems. 656 yards last year in 12 games, 581 in 8 games this year. Not a good time for T. Higgins to be falling off the table from a production standpoint.
No, not at all. And, I think we talked about it before, kind of. I was a little, it's like, man, he's good, obviously good, but how much of it is how much of it, he's definitely better than this guy. But remember the Corey Davis effect, right? Like sometimes pretty good players just happen to ride some coattails and just be between receiver, quarterback, and also, by the way, running back previously propped up a little bit. And I think that's true of him. So it hasn't worked out well for him in that regard. I think a lot more people probably think that now.
I need the Titans to sign him now. So the first question we can ask him is, so Rexrode compared you to Corey Davis. Your thoughts on that comparison? And do you feel like you're equal or better to Corey Davis moving forward here?
And it'll be like, wait, who's Corey Davis?
That could be the case.
That's possible.
It could be.
He's better than him. Okay. This is going to be taken out of context. I can already see it. I'm just saying it's a similar type of deal, I think, although with a better player. Okay.
What do you think that crowd looks like on Sunday? I mean, it's supposed to be, I think, in the 50s with a significant chance to rain. So what do you think that crowd looks like on Sunday, Cincinnati and the Titans?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a Bengals takeover necessarily because, there'll be Bengals fans, there'll be orange, but, how excited are they? Probably some people who were thinking about doing it. They're like, you know what? Do you want to do the 4.5-hour drive down and back? So I think it's going to be, it'll be more visiting fans than last week, but it might be less people overall. Probably something similar. Very, very sparse would be my guess.
That would be my guess as well. Predators in the losing streak yesterday. They get the 4-1 win against the Dallas Stars. They're back at it tomorrow against the Colorado Avalanche. I'll have your pregame show. I believe it's 7 tomorrow is when the pregame show begins. So I'll have that for you on the program. Hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. Joseph, enjoy yourself covering the Army-Navy game.
Will do. Thanks, guys.
We'll be back on Monday morning. You're listening to 102.5 The Game. Chasing Big Joe coming up next.